Good evening and welcome to our June 8th City Council meeting. We do have a full council present. And if you'd please stand and Councilman Arnold Lopez will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and the invocation will be given by Councilwoman Alma Flores.
I pledge allegiance to
To
the
the
flag
flag
of the
of the
United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. As we open tonight's meeting, let us remember that our role is one of service to our community and to one another. May we carry out the work before us with wisdom, professionalism, and respect for all voices and viewpoints. With appreciation for the opportunity to serve, let us begin tonight's meeting. Amen.
Thank you very much. So moving on, any citizen comments on agenda items?
No, Mayor.
Any citizen comments on non-agenda items?
Yes, Mayor, we have one from Mr. Van Sprice.
Mayor Ortega and council, a lot going on this summer in the Gila Valley. On this side of the card I've handed out, with a smaller text, I'll just go over a few things. The City of Safford Special Events Committee meeting is at 11 a.m. at the Annex. If you ever want to understand some of the intricacies of things going on in the events in the city, you can meet with staff and see what that's all about. Safford Downtown Association meeting is at 5:30 on the same day. The Mayor Jason Couts Park groundbreaking is at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, June 23rd. The Chamber Board meeting is at 1 p.m. on the 24th. You're always welcome to those. Experience Gila Valley website is a new website. It's a tourism website funded by Graham Economic Partnership. We're going to do a preview for stakeholders at 3 p.m. at the Chamber on June 25th. So you're all invited to that. Excuse me. Chamber Mixer this month is at One Easy Credit Union. We're graduating this group of Gila Valley leadership. It's the 20th year of citizens of the Gila Valley getting to know more about the community. Some dates that you're going to be seeing very soon are the airport hangar groundbreaking and the golf course ribbon cuttings for the wedding venue and the driving range. And then there's a lot coming up that the Chamber's handling, which is the next Gila Valley leadership cohort, Gila Valley 250, helping out with that. Moonshot is the competition to earn some money for entrepreneurs. So an entrepreneur can go and say, hey, I've got a great idea for a business and earn some money. And then Nature Sweet Salsa Fest is in September, as always. And then we are looking for a new presenting sponsor for Safford Spring Festival. Sun Pumps did it for 2 years, and they were happy to do it for 2 years, but they've decided they won't be doing it again. So we're looking for a presenting sponsor there. On the other side of the page, we have a website for the July 4th events for the 250th anniversary. And so you can see that at www.gilavalley4th.com. And there's 4 opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for you, but I've noted 4. No one is expected to do all 4 of these. No one's expected to do anything. This is just an opportunity. You can serve pancakes at 5:30 a.m. in Pima. You can walk and ride in the parade at 9:30 a.m., meet behind the courthouse. You can serve lunch in Thatcher at 1 p.m., and you can hand out popsicles at 5:30 p.m. If you have any questions, you can always text or email me. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 7, the presentation. Number 1, introducing new Safford Police Officer. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I'd like to introduce Officer Mark Rand. Officer Rand came to us. He's a Gila Valley native, graduating from Thatcher and get ready to feel old in 2021. And he joined our department here, completed his 20 weeks at the Southeastern Arizona Regional Law Officers Training Academy. Just a highlight I'd like to talk about Mark is that aside from being a Gila Valley native, he was the top academic graduate in his class. A lot of agencies down at the college told us that if it wasn't, kind of unethical, they would have tried to steal him from us. So he did a great job for us. Like I said, he's local, and we're happy to have him. just some highlights. He did have an eventful first week, so he hit the ground running for us, and so we're excited to have him. This brings us to fully staffed with officers on the street, so we're excited about that as well.
Mayor and council, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 2, early literacy concert series presentation. Sylvia?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a presentation on our Red Yarn Early Literacy Concert Series that has grown from a single concert to a 3-day residency. I will defer to my early literacy coordinator, who's standing behind me, to present the bulk of the presentation. I just wanted to make a note that this concert series is part of our spring session programming, which runs from January to April. Staff plans this out at least 5 to 6 months in advance, and it's definitely a sprint for those 4 months. And I'm really appreciative of all my staff, how hard they work to get all these programs and quality services out to the public. In total, we had 248 programs from January to April, with 8,669 attendees for the year. So the Early Literacy Concert Series is one component of that. And with that, I'll defer to my Early Literacy Coordinator, Elizabeth Henley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As introduced, my name is Elizabeth Henley, and I am the Early Literacy Coordinator here at the Stafford City Graham County Library. Among my many responsibilities, I am so thrilled that I get to help facilitate and plan our annual Library of Congress recognized Early Literacy Concert Series, this year featuring artist Red Yarn, who hails from Oregon. His concert series was April 7th through 9th, and we reached birth through 2nd grade in Graham and Greenlee counties through a variety of concert opportunities and sizes. You can see in the left photograph that Andy, that's his real name, is meeting with kids after the public concert, and Miss Molly is joining in. We've also there in the center photo, you'll see there he is in Duncan as part of our Duncan concert, and on the right is one of our concerts for kindergarten through 2nd grade, and as you can see, we filled the CFA. Over the course of the 3-day residency, we have 3 different concerts in Graham County, 2 concerts in Greenlee County, a teacher workshop for preschool through 2nd grade educators, plus home visitors from Child and Family Resources and Early Head Start. And this year, like last year, we are continuing the practice of having outreaches as well, so that we can reach as many children through this literacy opportunity as possible, in which they are building their early literacy skills through music, rhythm, movement, rhyme, and so on. The red on the chart, that's the attendance number for each of those programs of adults and children combined. And then you can see that over the course of the 3 days, the total adults and children served in Graham and Greenlee counties is 2,574 individuals, and that spans across 19 schools amongst those counties. In addition to a fabulous concert series and our teachers learning how to incorporate these skills into their classrooms, this year all of our presenters have a different approach to music and the classroom. This year with Andy, he takes puppetry, as you saw with Miss Molly, and he uses it to explore folk songs, which the way he taught us, folk songs are songs sung by regular people, regular folks, throughout families and friend groups across generations. And so to help support that in the classrooms and homes, we distributed 200 copies of The Fox Went Out on a Chilly Night. It's one of the folk songs he sings as in his concert, and so families and schools are able to continue the learning through the Peter Spire adaptation of that folk song. And in this picture here is one of our outreaches at Sierra Bonita Head Start. Here in this image is when we went to visit Kinder Prep Academy. Something that was so sweet when the puppets were getting set up was a little girl saying, "Oh, I hope there's puppets. I think they're silly." And so we were able to really meet the bill for that little girl. Also, as Andy was introducing himself at Kinder Prep, saying that while he's from Oregon, he's originally from Texas, another little girl raised her hand and so eagerly made this great background knowledge connection and started singing to Andy, "Oh, that's Texas. That's my mom's favorite song," and proceeded to sing, "She's from Texas, I can tell by the way," and sang the whole chorus to the whole group. And so that was really fantastic. Something that really moved us with our CFA concerts was how a special needs child brought like a little, almost like a little puppet with him to begin with. And one of our staff here said, "Oh, do you like puppets?" And he said, "Yeah, I really do." "Oh, you're going to love this concert." And so they were able to connect learning through music and bring it back to their classrooms and hopefully at home as well. We cannot do this 3-day artist residency without the support of our many, many sponsors. Of course, the City of Safford and the Safford City Graham County Library. We cannot do early literacy at the library without First Things First, Arizona's Early Childhood Agency, United Way, the heroes of our whole community, right? Gila Valley Arts Council, the Friends of the Safford Library, both fantastic partners of the library, and of course, the Graham County School Superintendent's Office and the Greeley County School Superintendent's Office. We can't wait to continue this. We've already have our artist booked for next April. Please feel free to come to that concert. You're more than welcome. And thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you. Okay. Then we'll close the regular meeting and open up a public hearing. Public hearing regarding the use of Community Development Block Grants, also known as CDBG funds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I know you're expecting Jamie, but she couldn't make it this evening, so I'll try to do my best. The City of Safford is expected to receive approximately $291,000 in fiscal year 26 Federal Community Development Block Grant Funds, or CDBG, from the Arizona Department of Housing Regional Account. Strategic goals include infrastructure development and maintenance and financial management. The city receives CDBG funds every 4 years. Funding amounts vary based on available funding for the award year and may only be spent on qualifying projects in low-mod census tracts, prevention or elimination of slum blight, or urgent need within the city. This is the second public hearing for this grant. Mr. William Osborne from Community Development, CEGO, the Community Development Program Manager, has joined us this evening. He'll present the public hearing. CDB projects to be considered by Safford, there are numerous, so I won't belabor it because Mr. Osborne will go over all of those in greater detail. The recommendation is that staff is seeking discussion and direction on the expenditure of the available CDBG funds for fiscal year 26. Staff recommends sidewalk and ADA improvements on 3rd Avenue and complete ADA sidewalk improvements in low-mod area of city and crosswalks if needed. This funding source works well for sidewalk projects to be fully completed and has been requested by the public. Mayor and Council, I'd like to bring Mr. Osborne up to the podium.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and members of our community here. CDBG, we had our initial public hearing back maybe a month and a half ago. But we're now looking ahead at, again, making a decision for a project to choose to apply for. Next slide, please. And so CDBG, Mr. Bejarano has laid it out pretty well. Its intent is to help communities with housing, infrastructure, with a living environment, and also with economic opportunities. There's a limited amount of tax dollars to go around, but CDBG tries to address the community and economic development needs, and these can be funded through either a regional account, as Mr. Bejarano said, or could be competed for statewide. The national criteria for funding eligibility of a project, we'll also go briefly into that again. and then also recapping the past projects that have been funded by CDBG here in Safford, and then to discuss and brief those projects that were identified at the last public hearing to move forward toward a resolution for application. Next slide, please. And so the types of CDBG that are available to Safford at present are a regional account. It's non-competitive. It is the city of Safford's turn, so to speak, in Graham County. The other communities have their opportunities, and most recently, I believe it was Thatcher, had their opportunity around, I'm sorry, Graham County. And Graham County is now moving forward with improvements to their fairgrounds. Thatcher is now beginning construction with a sidewalk and ADA improvement project related to the schools along High School Avenue. And so these are very important projects that can actually make a big impact in the community. Other states, other CDBG funds that are available include state special project. These, though, are competed with with other rural communities throughout the state of Arizona. The funding availability might be greater, but the risk of not getting an award is also there. Next slide, please. The regional account distribution for this year, Safford is getting approximately $291,000. The town of Clifton, $100,000. Huachuca City and Cochise County, about $516,000. And Nogales, just over $440,000. And each year, there's a different set of communities that would get the opportunity for regional account distribution. And again, those are non-competitive. Next slide, please. The national objectives for each project, the criteria of which they're measured, whether or not they actually would qualify, is that, as Mr. Bejarano said, must primarily benefit low and moderate income persons or households. That is 51% of a service area's beneficiaries for a project that's been proposed would have to have an income that's 80% or less of the median income for the area of households for the same size. The other way to qualify as low moderate is if you have special needs communities or special needs populations or groups within the city that could automatically be considered low moderate income. Could be seniors, disabled, domestic violence victims, folks needing rehabilitation services. Those folks could also qualify as low mod. A project could also qualify when its intent is to prevent or eliminate slum and blight conditions. So typically, whether it's area-wide or a spot issue, like a significant property that has issues with slum and blight, those are usually first steps in a larger picture of what to do with those properties or with those areas or neighborhoods. That the blight and slum removal is only one part of the equation. It's not enough just to clean up and maintain. It's actually to look at how an area could be redeveloped or invested in to improve it so that blight and slum does not return. Also, could be a project that meets urgent needs relating to health and safety issues. Could be storm damage, some other natural disaster. If such a condition existed and there was a resolution, for even acquiring disaster relief, CDBG funds could also be put towards those sorts of efforts. Next slide, please. Eligible project categories and types. Typically, it's public and community facilities. Senior centers could be related to schools or recreation. Housing, whether it's rehabilitation or new construction. Public services, those typically are new services, not to buttress services that are already provided, but to provide services where they don't currently exist in the city. And also for planning, design, and engineering for other qualifying projects. Could be part of a first step within a project, or even could be part of a project to make improvements to the sidewalks. If there is design and engineering required, that could in part be funded by CDBG. Next slide, please. And so the past City of Safford projects that we've identified include sidewalk and ADA improvements in the Leif Nelson neighborhood, fairly close to this area here. You might see some new sidewalks and new curb ramps. Those were initially put forward in 2022, but the project finished in 2024. And it was really a significant impact and covered a lot of the area there. In 2018, there was an application for playground ADA improvements at the Glen Meadows and Firth Park. 2014, the Jensen Addition Water and Sewer System Improvements Project was begun. And in 2010, sidewalks north of Highway 70 east of 8th Avenue was a project that went forward. Next slide, please. And so, as Eric said, there's a pretty significant list of projects that were identified from the first public hearing that was held here just a couple months ago. It included a proposed temporary shelter for the homeless, also down payment assistance for housing, possible development of a tiny home community for low-income homeless populations, improvements for existing parks, development of pocket parks in underserved areas, school recreation facilities improvements for community use, traffic signal at intersections of 8th Avenue and 8th Street, sidewalk ADA improvements on 3rd Avenue, improved street lighting, clearly marked crosswalks, and traffic safety improvements near middle school and train tracks, community activity and resource center for all ages, including indoor recreation and social space, walking path safety near Canal south of Dorothy Stinson School, school playground equipment safety, and complete ADA sidewalk improvements in low mod area of city and crosswalks if needed. And I believe that's the last one. So check the next slide, please. Indeed. And so the project contacts, as we would move forward with whatever is selected tonight, would be Lance Henry, the Public Works Director, Jamie Embick, the Community Development Director, and also myself, Will Osborne, with SEGO, that's Southeastern Arizona Governments Organization, and I'm your Community and Economic Development Program Manager there. Be happy to answer any questions you might have, and also be available for any questions that come up along the way.
I just have maybe you can explain, how does you figure out how each city gets like our 291,000? How is that amount determined?
The amount is determined in part by the amount that our region, the Southeastern Arizona Governments Organization, represents Cochise, Graham, Greenlee, and Santa Cruz counties. Population and percent poverty are two of the main measures of the amount of funding. SEGO, I believe that we had it in our initial presentation, that we get approximately $1.35 million annually, about that amount total, for 4 communities in our service area, 1 in each county. That's for regional account. Otherwise, there's quite a bit more money that might be available for those competitive grants, like the Colonias, which there are a number in Graham County, but none that are designated in Safford. But for state special projects, that fund can also be somewhere around $1.5 million. And state special projects, again, you're competing with the whole state's rural communities, whether it's up in the area of Flagstaff or all the way down here. And those ones, though, again, being competitive, if you don't get the award, you still have to figure a way of paying for the application and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Mayor? Just to remind the public, this is a public hearing, so if anyone wants to comment on this item, now is the time.
And I might suggest to bring back up the project list that was identified from the first hearing. I think it's 13 items. And folks can speak to those if they'd like.
Right. We have another.
Just a quick comment. Thank you, Mayor. And I'm glad this got brought back up. This is my second chance of this, and maybe last, just depending on how things go 4 years from now. I'm not opposed to sidewalks. I wasn't opposed to sidewalks the last time around. But I would still like, at some point, possibly, maybe not this go around, to try to use the funds in a way that's more impactful to low-income families. Almost everything on this list, to me, hits that a little bit better. And again, sidewalks are great and helpful in a lot of ways, especially in some of these areas. But that just, I guess it's always felt to me like sidewalks are something we should be doing already and anyway. And that these particular funds could be put to better use for low-income needs.
Yeah. If I could say is that the amount of funding and the challenge that a lot of our communities are facing with the qualification in general, areas are seen as, in the data from the American Community Survey, as having increased their prosperity. And the low moderate percentage of like household percentages, I think it's if you were to take 1,000 households, that rare is that you're going to find an area where there are 511 households out of that 1,000 households that are less than 80% of the median household income. And so with that data, at least how it's been made available to us, projects where you're going to be making that impact are harder to qualify for.
Right.
And the amount of money needed for them is also challenging.
Right, and I understand that too, and the ongoing versus one-time costs, some of these would require a little bit more of an ongoing
Yeah.
commitment, that's an issue. It just, again, I appreciate the recommendation and I'll support it, but something tells me we've been missing the mark on this a little bit.
Good question. And Mr. Henry is also here, available to answer any questions about public works projects.
Thank you very much. Okay, then, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reconvene into our regular meeting. Item number 11, minutes of May 4th, 11th, 18th, 2026. Has everybody had a chance to review them? If not, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes for May 4th, May 11th, and May 18th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to approve the minutes of May 4th, 11th, and 16th, the city council meetings. All in favor? Opposed?
There, again, sir, I was trying to get your attention so that I could say something. The last time we had one of these, there didn't seem to be a chance for any discussion, any real discussion on the vote, like say an amendment to be made on something. And the last time I was charged with a no vote, and I'll probably get another one now. I just was hoping that when the vote is brought forward, that we follow the same protocol each time, because we don't seem to do that.
After an item, I look around, I look up and down to see, and usually I get some, a motion that they want to say something.
And usually it's, is there any further deal or something like that? And we do that, but it don't seem to go the same all the time. And I was hoping that when we have our meeting, hopefully in the future, we discuss this on what goes on.
A good idea. Okay, so we had a motion and a second, and it was voted on. Okay, then we'll move on to item number 12. Contracts and agreements. City prosecutor contact renewal. Eric.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to reappoint Matt Clifford as City Prosecutor for the City of Safford. Mr. Clifford will perform prosecutorial and victim advocacy services on behalf of the city as delineated in the attached contract in your packet. Background, Mr. Clifford was first appointed City Prosecutor in 2011. Since that time, the city has continued to utilize Mr. Clifford to provide prosecutorial services on behalf of the city. The proposed renewal of contract covers a 3-year period running from July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2029. The base contract being proposed remains unchanged from the preceding version of the contract and includes a $7,000 per month fee with an additional $4,000 per year for victim advocacy services. Mayor and Council staff recommends approval of the prosecutor contract for Mr. Clifford, and Mr. Clifford has joined us this evening should you have any questions.
Any comments?
No, sir.
It's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the city prosecutor contract renewal.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the city prosecutor contract renewal. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. And we'll move on to item number 2, contract 2026-009 through 2026-041 for the call of professional design services contract budget year 2027 through 2031. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The City of Stafford conducted a solicitation through a request for statement of qualifications for professional design firms across 18 separate categories to provide services for the city. The RSLQ was advertised in the Eastern Arizona Courier on December 3rd, 10th, 17th of 2025. One addendum was issued to extend the submittal deadline by 1 week, making the final due date January 29, 2026. The city received 168 category submittals from 55 professional service firms. Review panels consisting of public works and utilities employees evaluated the submittals and narrowed the final on-call list for professional services to 32 contracts. I want to give a thanks to Jace and Lance for being involved in all those committees. Hopefully that didn't cause Jace to leave. The on-call contracts save valuable time in delivering projects by eliminating significant delays associated with RSOQ processes for every project. In lieu of attaching a separate contract for each firm, a sample contract, professional service contract is attached to the staff summary. Upon City Council approval, this template will be extended with individual firms as professional services are required for specific projects. The professional service on-call contracts covers a list of several areas, including archaeological services, architectural design, drainage and stormwater services, electrical design and SCADA programming, electrical facility design, engineering plan review, foundation and structural design, geotechnical engineering, inspection services, landscape architectural design, public relations, subsurface utility engineering, surveying, transportation and traffic engineering, treatment systems for water and wastewater systems, hydrogeological engineering, and photometric analysis and light design. The on-call professional service contracts are effective from, which would be July 1st, 2020, well, this 2026, fall year 2026 through fall year 31, with an option to renew the contract for 1 additional year through 2032. The initial award establishes the on-call services agreements. It does not include a fee. Subsequent contract amendments will detail project scopes of works and fees. Furthermore, any future design contract exceeding $60,000 will be brought before City Council for formal approval. Lastly, as part of our advertisement, the contracts may be extended for use by other municipalities, school districts, and government agencies within the state, subject to the approval of contract vendors. Any such use by outside entities must comply with the statutes, codes, ordinances, charters, and procurement rules of those respective agencies. So this language could help. So Graham County, towns of Pima and Thaxter, and local school districts could utilize these contracts. So staff recommends approval of professional on-call contracts 2026-009 through 2026-041 for on-call professional services. you guys have any questions.
So how will a vendor be chosen? So for instance, like number 3, if it's a drainage and stormwater project, there's 5 different vendors listed there. How will staff choose a vendor?
Um, they're basically kind of ranked in order of how we approve them. So we'll probably be going down. We want to give everybody an opportunity too. So we don't want to select the same vendor for every project, but it's kind of, I guess, up to staff to choose on who they want. But long as it's within those 5, in some categories only have, because we only had 2 submittals for like public relations, so there's only 2 vendors.
And will there be an evaluation process? So if you use a vendor and then say, they did a great job or they didn't, will that be noted? And then the next time a vendor is needed within that category, will that be taken into account?
Yeah, we keep track on a spreadsheet of how the vendors do. We evaluate them at the end of the project as well.
Okay. And then also, just because this is a new process, I'm just curious, I would like to see us maybe track the value added that this process is giving the city in general. Are we finding savings within projects? Are we just finding savings within the timeframes? That type of thing, just an overall maybe review after a couple of years or 2, 3 years of using these listed vendors.
Yeah, we can do that.
No, sir, I'm
Mr.
good.
Mayor?
I like what you're trying to keep account of it, and sometimes we ask, will you come back and let us know how it's going on, and we don't hear back, so I'm hoping it comes through.
Mayor, I
Mr.
think
Mayor,
Bill
this-
has a comment.
Mr. Mayor, Alma asked some very good questions, and Jeff has done a good job assembling all of these for your review. But the way this works, and the vendors know this, that Jeff may look at the quality, he's judged them based on quality. Then he goes to them, and if they quote a price that is too high, he moves to the next bidder or the next proposer. So there is some influence, some tendency to force the bidders to be reasonable on their price. And that's exactly what he'll do when a project comes about. He will look at the list. He will say, these people received the highest number of points in terms of quality. Now we're going to talk to them about price. And if they don't quote a reasonable price, he goes to the next respondent.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
I do have one other comment, actually. On the service contracts, I did note that in some of the places, we actually named employees of, for instance, on page 53 of the council packet, you put consultant shall designate Chris Ford as their consultant representative. I'm wondering if we can change this to titles rather than people's names, as, 5-year contract. If that employee leaves, are we going to have any issues with getting service from them?
I don't think there's an issue with doing more generic titles versus names.
Mayor, just a comment briefly. I just want to compliment our team for putting the work in. This started many, many, many months ago. As you recall, we brought a park project to the council just a few weeks ago with a substantial increase to the budget. The overall goal of this, and what you'll see when we start talking the Gordian projects and contracts as well, is how do we speed up that timeline? So that way we don't have a repeat of that coming forward in the future. So kudos to the team for bringing this forward and trying to improve upon a process that we've used in the past that proved not to be as efficient.
Anybody else have any comments?
And this goes across all departments.
Yeah, anybody in the city, any department in the city can utilize these on-call contracts.
If there's no more comments, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve city contracts 2026-009 through 2026-041 for on-call professional design service contracts, budget year 2027 through 2031.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve contract 2026-009 through 2026-041, all for on-call professional design services contracts for budget year 2027 through 2031. All in favor? Opposed? Done. Then we'll move on to item number 3, extension of ARM Energy natural gas hedging contract and delegation of execution authority of the city manager. Jeffrey?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The city currently holds a natural gas hedging contract with ARM Energy to lock in a fixed supply pricing. Currently set at $4.67 per million British thermal units. Natural gas markets are high and volatile. Currently, there is an increased demand coming to the region via liquefied natural gas, exports, new data center construction, and overall traditional power demand increases. Hedging our natural gas supply provides rate stability for the utility going forward and protects against sudden price spikes tied to severe weather events or market shifts. By extending our current contract with ARM to June 2029, we can lower our fixed price from $4.67 to a range between $4.15 and $4.31 per BTU, depending on the exact market price at the moment of execution. This move reduces the current fixed price by approximately 46 cents per BTU, securing significant savings for the utility. However, the commodity market moves rapidly. Waiting for scheduled council meetings to approve contract execution causes the city to miss optimal pricing windows. For example, 2 weeks ago, the available pricing was $4.12 per BTU. But during administration waiting periods, the market shift that available rates up to current $4.15 to $4.31 range. Granting the city manager the authority to execute future extensions with the strict safeguard that the new price must be lower than the existing contract will give the gas division the agility to lock in market dips immediately, securing the best possible rate for the city and overall ratepayers with unnecessary delays. Staff recommends that mayor and council approve the hedge contract extension with ARM Energy through June 2029. Staff further recommends that council authorize the city manager to execute further hedging contract extensions independently, providing the new executed price lower than the overall cost compared in the actual contract. And I'd like to thank Raymond, our utility gas. He's always looking out for grants or ways to lower our funds, so I think it's a great job on him. And he's available too for questions.
I do have a quick question. I really like the idea of giving the city manager the authorization to act faster on these contracts. I just had one question. If the city manager does go into a contract, let's say a 3-year contract, and the price comes down, within that 3-year contract, it comes down again, even though the 3-year contract isn't over yet. Will he still have an opportunity to be able to take advantage of those decreases?
Yeah, you will be able to do that. That's what we actually did this time. Our contract isn't up until next year in June. And if we actually waited till June, we'd get a price of $3.98. What I did with, since our price is going up and we don't, since we're gonna increase our prices, what I decided to do is actually blend it instead of getting $3.98 in June, and that's if the price, stays where it's supposed to be at. What I did was I actually extended our contract to this year so we could lock in and blend all those prices together to drop it. So we could do this in the future if we wanted to. We just have to blend it with that proposed possible price. But the way things are looking, I don't think the $3.98 will actually work. It'll probably be higher. So if we do it right now, it'll actually drop our price.
Thank you, Raymond.
Mayor, sorry, just another comment. I just wanted to summarize the CCF and explain why we came up with this. So when Raymond had this meeting a few weeks ago, you can see the data. Once he aligned schedules and got us in the same room to speak with our representative from ARM, rates had already changed. And we were sitting in that room, and we weren't going to bring this to council until the 22nd because we had already missed our internal deadline. So luckily, I asked the clerk if we could get it on the agenda for tonight because As you can see, time is of the essence. By the time that conversation ended, when we met with him, I think it was last Tuesday, he told us in that few 10, 15 minutes, rates had already changed. So the longer we wait, we don't know what's going to happen. Chances are they're going to increase, but I can't tell you that for sure. Neither could he. And that's why we decided the best way to ask this was if the rates were to decline with approval from the city manager, we could lock that in, not only saving money for the city, but ultimately for our residents.
I think it's a good move. It's a good idea. Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve extension of ARM Energy Natural Gas Hedging Contract and delegation of execution authority to the city manager.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the extension of ARM Energy Natural Gas Hedging Contract and a delegation of execution authority to the city manager. All in favor? Opposed? It's done. Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 13, Resolution R26-017. It's a budget amendment changing the fiscal year 2026 operation budget for the golf course.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Alan Ashton, the General Manager and Golf Course Superintendent for the Golf Club with Troon Golf Management. I won't read through the whole portion of the packet for you. I'll just touch on the highlight parts. I'm sure you've had a chance to look at that. And then I have some other information that had been requested by members of the council that we just got recently this morning that I can kind of update some of this. Looking for additional budget authority for primary factors that are driving increased expenses on the golf course. The first of those is payroll and staffing costs. We have personnel expenses that have increased beyond original projections. Overtime and additional staffing needs related to course maintenance, irrigation repairs, tournaments and food service operations. Also somewhat higher employee benefits and payroll related costs. Increased chemical and fertilizer costs. Some of those increases are the result of nationwide inflation in agricultural and turf management products, supply chain issues. Number 3, food and beverage cost increases. We've seen higher wholesale food and beverage pricing, increased costs for paper goods, cleaning supplies, kitchen products. And then number 4 is general inflationary pressures. In addition to the major categories above, golf course is experiencing increases across many routine operational areas, including equipment maintenance and repair, fuel and utility costs, irrigation system maintenance, building maintenance and custodial supplies, small tools and operational materials. The information that I received from our regional accounting lead today speaks to the largest driver of the overruns is payroll. Through April, the actuals exceeded budget by $170,000. Also, we have 5 pay periods remaining in May and June, with payroll averaging around $40,000 per pay period for a total of $200,000. The budget the budget for May and June is only $115,000. So the projected overage for the year in payroll would be around $255,000. So that's the bulk of it. Looking at the departments, the next biggest driver of the overages is cost of goods sold for the food and beverage department. Through April, the actuals are exceeding budget by $31,000. Agronomy expenses also exceeded budget, primarily driven by repair and maintenance and operating expenses for $28,000. And then we also had a chemical purchase last September of $24,000. And I think that covers the main part of this. Our regional also sent some additional information. I think Troy would be able to get to you guys if you need it. And then either he or I think, can answer any further questions that you would have.
I just have some comments. I did have some correspondence with Troy, the finance director. And so I just kind of want to share with what we talked about, and he can also confirm. But just kind of looking at our budget, what we budgeted, the revenue versus the expenses, we had budgeted a loss of 685,000 approximately for the golf course in the current fiscal year. Now, with the new numbers, with the projected revenues and the projected expenses, we're looking at a loss of about 855,000. So there is an increase in that loss of about $170,000. Now, kind of thinking back to the beginning of the year, we terminated our contract with Thatcher, and so that reduced our revenues. And I would say it's probably about half of that 170 that we would have collected from Thatcher had we not terminated the contract. So I think overall, just based on the information that I was provided, I actually really feel good about approving this budget request. I think because we are required to report our entire expenditures, we have to show this in a very specific way. We have to show our revenues, we have to show our expenditures, and we have to approve these budget amounts. And so therefore, that 440,000, really when you're looking at, our revenues versus our expenditures, it is not as large of an increase as saying it's $440 more that we're expensing. So I just wanted to point that out.
Mayor, just a comment, Mayor and Council. So to that point, thank you, Councilmember Flores. Looking at our contract, it's very loosely written, I'll say, in talking about the budget. So our agreement says if there are not sufficient funds available from the gross revenues, et cetera, the operator shall notify the city on a monthly basis, and the city shall provide sufficient funds to make up the monthly deficiency. I've talked with our attorney, and I've met with the Troon team, Alan and Aaron, quite frequently at the course, not on the course, to clarify, and looking at how do we tighten the reins on this a little bit so we don't face this same issue in 10, 11 months. So one of those is to look at the wording of the contract. We signed this back in 2020. It's on one-year auto renewal terms right now, and there is some other language we need to address as well. One is the Thatcher. That's still in the contract. How do we address that moving forward? And that's a conversation we can have offline. But looking at how do we prevent this, other conversations we had Friday and this morning, better communication with their team at Troon headquarters. So I offered to drive up there. We'll sit in an office, not on a Zoom or a virtual meeting, and have conversations, look at these numbers and crunch them, and see how we're not only performing the budget on their side, but also have that data on our side as well. So we've kicked around several ideas, so that way, in again, 10 months, we're not having the same conversation.
I also just want to add one more thing. I think the course and Eric have done a really great job of just managing the course and looking at other revenue generating options. We've got the driving range coming in, we've got the wedding venue, and that is half the battle. Where else can we pull some revenues to offset these expenses? So I think you guys are doing a really great job with that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, just one more point. It jogged my memory. So looking at this as our small business, I have a little expertise in that, I would say, but we don't want to sit stale. We sat stale, and this is not negative. At the golf course, you'd go out, you play your rounds, and that was it. Now we're looking at different opportunities to drive revenue. The wedding and event location, also the driving range as mentioned. And really what that driving revenue does for us as a city is relieves that tax burden to our taxpayers. So that's why those ideas came around. More ideas are going to come, and if we fund those, we'll see. But that's the logic behind kind of what we have going out there, and it's working. If you look at comments on social media, it's kind of a good problem to have when tee times are hard to come by. You have to schedule them. You can't just show up and get on the course. So what the team is doing out there, it's not me, it's the team out there managing the course. They're doing a great job. So thank you.
I just have a question with the payroll issues, because we're going through budget right now. We're addressing the increase in the payroll cost. We're addressing all of that. Is that not something you guys sit down and forecast for the year so that we're not going into this? Because based on the email that we've read, and I'm sorry to say, it just sounds kind of like it was, let's come up with some reason good enough so that council will give us this money. And I'm not saying that that's what it is, but that's what those emails sounded like. So then I started asking, well, why didn't you know that there was going to be an increase in your payroll costs, that you were going to need to pay more? I mean, we're addressing that now in budget, and the fiscal year hasn't even started yet.
I appreciate the question. We did have discussed that. And from the Troon side of it, I would say that we probably did drop the ball on that, probably between my predecessor and then my coming on board. We have the addition of additional staff members, particularly in the restaurant, that are covering, the additional activity that we have out there. We are very much busier in the restaurant than we have been. So we've increased the hours slightly there, and we're in preparation to get ready for when the driving range T opens and we have the food and beverage need there. The other thing that hasn't been brought up, and I wasn't even made aware of this completely, but we had monies that went for the severance package for my predecessor, which I'm not aware of what that number would be, but that's in there as well. So, but everything else with respect to the numbers, I saw in one of the messages about 14 additional employees. It's not, we don't have 14 additional staff members. We have 14 more part-time than we've had previously. The golf course only has about 7 or 8 people that are full-time employees. Everybody else out there is part-time, and we are trying to budget to where we run all those people to where they can get, between 15 and 30 hours, depending upon their needs and depending upon the needs of the facility.
Thanks, Alan. And if I may, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong here, but of those 14, because I saw that number as well and immediately fired off an email for clarification. So we have marshals out there that kind of manage the course, drive around the course, make sure everything's going as it should, helping get folks started off on the course and just making sure folks don't just show up and start playing golf. My understanding is those 8-ish were not technically on payroll in the past. That's our own doing to help clarify the books, I guess, that maybe there were some trade, free golf, et cetera, years ago, and we've cleaned that up. So it's not like they just appeared this year. They've been out there, but now there's actually tracking and allocation for them. Another part compounding, as we all know, Alan's been here less than a year now, but I was looking back at a lot of emails coming from Troon, and the person managing our account was new as well, as recent as November. So that's why I had the conversation and said, okay, we need to get up there and have a face-to-face conversation. Not only do they need to understand how we're tracking all this in our finance, but we need to understand how they're doing it on their side, because even in a long slew of emails, there seems to be some misses, and we can correct that moving forward.
And I do look forward getting back to cooperation from Thatcher, because they did supply, they paid for the electricity out there, and we got back the sales tax from the bar, which helped significantly. So, and they were willing to help in like manners with some of the projects, and so I'm looking forward to that coming back also. That helped considerably.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor. I'm sorry, Councilman.
No, you're fine. It is budget season. Have we officially reached out to Thatcher to have that conversation? I'm sure they're working on their budget, so I don't want to go forward on a wish and a dream. I'd like to make sure that we're actually having the intent conversation.
Good question, Mayor and Council. I have had that discussion with their manager, and I'm happy to further that conversation if that's the direction I'm receiving tonight. That was a conversation I had with the mayor, just to reach out to the manager, and it was well received. We've had a couple of lunches together and had that conversation. Vice Mayor, to your point, it's about $100,000 that we walked away from when we ended that agreement. Not only the $100,000, but also the fact of telling them to take our golf course off of their website. So we lost some advertising as well for folks looking at the community to come here and possibly enjoy a round of golf. So if that's the direction of the council, I'm happy to jump on that as soon as tomorrow and have a follow-up conversation and see what our partners at the town of Thatcher have to say about that.
Mayor, I believe we can't give direction on an item since it's not the item that we're discussing. Tonight's just for the amendment of the budget to the golf course. So if we would like to bring that back, we can ask for that as a future agenda item at the end of the meeting, please.
Go ahead.
And just exactly what are you asking for here? A monetary amount? How much is it? For sure, with all these numbers bouncing around. In addition to,
I think we need to.
Troy, do you want to?
you want us to
Speak to that.
extend, you want us to extend something, but I
So
haven't nailed down the exact amount.
the ask tonight is $440,000 in addition to their current budget that was allocated in July of last year. $440,000.
And that'll get us through 26,
That gets us through the end of this month.
end of this month. That's what's scary.
Correct. We have a budget for 2027 in our budget. It's pretty similar to what we're actually changing the 26 budget to right now. So
Mayor, can you please clarify that like you did in the email with me? Because we've already given them 250,000 of that, correct?
correct. So typically what would happen is during the early parts of the year, we would allocate these budget allocations to them, and then we would take away from the very last month. Well, if we couldn't take it away from this, it grew to such a large amount, it was larger than what we were giving them in June. So now we're in the situation of we've given them $250,000. They are out of cash as of last Friday. And so if we do not approve this item tonight, they are officially stopped. So $440,000 takes care of the $250,000 plus their additional ask for the month, which I think is close to $198,000. And again, those numbers could change. I told them to relook at what they need to get through the end of the month, because the goal at the golf course is for their cash account to be at zero at the end of the month and them to have accounts payable and accounts receivable offset each other. So there can't be a balance of accounts payable at the end of the month that's unpaid. That would also have to be in this $198,000 they're asking. So I didn't get any confirmation today of what that number is. I think we're still sticking with the $198,000 they need tomorrow, but that is what my understanding is, which $440,000 is the real number that you're asking for, because you have to cover all those previous allocations plus the allotment for June.
What happens if that amount is over? We approve 440 tonight.
We might have to come back for another item closer to the end of the month or sometime in July. Basically, if there's accounts payable outstanding going in July, I'll come back with another item saying we still had more.
Just real quickly, and maybe I have this wrong, but future contracts notwithstanding, the current one says shall,
Yeah.
correct? So doesn't sound like we have a choice.
We're kind of in the middle of the budget is what was said, but there's a contract that says you shall pay all of it. So it is a weird situation to be in. You either break the contract or approve the budget.
Mr. Mayor, this is Bill Sims. You raised some good points, and I think that also could be raised at future agenda items. You heard the manager point out that the contract language needs to be tightened. I think when we get to the agenda items, we can raise the issue of directing the manager to talk to Thatcher and direct the manager to talk to Troon about making sure we address this contract so it isn't necessarily shall.
Got that? Anybody else? No? Okay.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution R26-017, budget amendment changing the FY 2026 operations budget for the golf course.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R26-017. It's a budget amendment changing the fiscal year 2026 operation budget for golf course. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Mayor, this approves Resolution R26-017 with the vote of 6-1 with Councilmember Bratner opposing. Resolution number R26-017, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, adopting a change to the fiscal year 2026 final budget for the golf course.
Thank you. And we'll move on to resolution R26-018, fiscal year 2026 to 2027 tentative budget. Troy?
Mayor and council, it's been a long budget year. We've had meetings since I feel like January we started. We really took off in March, but we've met about utility rate increases, service fee increases, capital improvement plans, department budgets, both enterprise and governmental department budgets, revenue projections, fund balance projections. We've talked about everything underneath the sun. So tonight is the night that we planned on setting the tentative budget. This requires to set a maximum budget, and then from here, we can set a final budget less than this, but you cannot go higher than this number. This gives the public the opportunity, once we set this tonight, to, we'll advertise in the paper for the next 2 weeks. Hopefully, the courier comes through, and that will allow us to get it out to the public that we are proposing a budget of $132,017,625. That is what our expenditure limitations also is for the city of Stafford. So this number seems a little bit higher than what we've been talking about, and let me explain that. So when we talk the tentative budget, again, it's a maximum budget. You can, through the month of June, we can work on amendments to reduce that budget, but it is a balanced budget. So keep that in mind. So when you look at this, this is what the state gets. This is our overall budget. We have 3 different funds. I know in the past we've shown debt service funds and capital project funds. We don't have those, but we have done that in the past. So I just tried to clarify it this year and get it down to, we have a general fund, a special revenue fund in the form of HERF, and enterprise funds, which is all of our utilities and landfill and sanitation. We do also have internal service funds, but for the most part, internal service funds budget their budget inside of other budgets. The only thing that they do outside of that is they have a vehicle replacement program where they spend possibly sometimes more than what they bring in for the year. But overall, their funding is allocated for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, depending. But yeah, they bring in a certain amount of money, but they might spend more in a given year, but they might spend less in another given year. But as you can see this year, that those 4 funds, or those 4 types of funds, all report out to $132 million. I'll get to the detail of what we've actually talked about through all those meetings. But I just want to point out some high-level things. Because we issue debt and because we have grants, technically, $36 million of this budget doesn't meet the expenditure limitations. So technically, we have a budget of $95,941,412, but that's just the technicality. Really, the funding comes from both debt and grants, but we don't have to include those in our expenditure limitations. So we've talked about property tax. Our plan this year is to go a flat tax. We're just going to let the rate slide a little bit down. It only collects an additional, as you can see, $335,000 was last year's $342,000, so an additional $7,000. Most of that was construction growth. The other thing is here's our actual rate, all the revenues we talked about. These numbers should seem very familiar to you when we talked about them just 2 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I think, for the general fund, and then special revenue funds and enterprise funds we just talked about 2 weeks ago. So we believe we're bringing in about $68,347,000 between various rates, property taxes, actual sales taxes. That's what we actually collect to fund this $132 million budget. We also have transfers between our funds, and we use fund balance. So the first column is sources and uses of fund balance. As you can see, we plan to use somewhere in the neighborhood of $28 million to pay for our CIP program. That's where we look at our 5-year plan, look at how much money we have in our current fund balance that's not restricted, self-restricted, where we have our fund balance requirements. This is unrestricted fund balance that we plan to use to pay for CIP. There's also, you'll see grant funds in there, and that's where the debt, $13.75 million in rural utility loans. That's for the water department. One of their biggest projects is an actual loan from USDA. And then vehicle leasing, we plan on leasing all of our vehicles, both large and small this year, of $8.7 million. So that comes out to $22 million of debt and or leasing, and then $28 million of fund balance. And then the last 2 columns is in and out, as you can see, $12.2 million. This is where we transfer money between our various funds. This is where I take money for the general fund to help support the administrative activities for the enterprise funds, internal service funds, and special revenue funds. This is also our cemetery fund, how it collects money from our streets and our water and streets department to pay for the perpetual care of the cemetery. There's also the HERF funds. They actually take a half cent of our sales tax and allocate that towards just streets. But in the end, it's a balance. So whatever we're taking out of one fund, we're just putting into another fund. So that's $12.9 million to get it into the right fund. Here is a vague statement, but we'll get to more detail. As you can see, these are numbers that you're more familiar with. We've talked more about the 44,695,521 for the general fund, and I'll show you the detail in 1 minute. For special revenue funds, HERF, 6,037. This is where you can plug contingency. Because we don't budget all the way up to our expenditure limitation, we can put contingency in the budget. What that does is if things change in the future, and which has already happened in the general fund, is we just got a call that we received a grant for Flock for years 2 through 4. So we didn't put that in the budget. So what I would do is I would take from the contingency pile and put it into the police budget so that we have ways of receiving grant funds for $285,000. So there's always little tweaking going on, but it will never go higher than $132 million. Again, there's the enterprise funds. You see the $62,477,716. That is all the enterprise funds when we add them all together. It does have a contingency of $4 million, which gets to that. You'll see the $132 million, 017,625. Again, another required form, oftentimes you guys ask, is how much do we spend on actual salaries? So officially in this budget with all the approved positions, I believe are 175.9 FTEs. That's not bodies. If you look at actually individual bodies, when you start throwing in the lifeguards and volunteer fire department, you're up to 228 somewhere in the actual bodies. But in physical or full-time equivalents, we're at 175.9, making us one of the top 10 employers in the Graham County. So here's the detail that you guys are familiar with as we've gone through the budget. It's in a different little format, but this is a state required form. So as you can see, this is the 44,695,521 of general fund. This calls it out more detail by departments. Because of spacing, you still have to, Public Works is all combined together. So parks, facilities, and Public Works Administration all gets put into one line. But yes, there's your 44,965,521, a number that we've talked about at various budget sessions, more detail. The HERF fund, same number we talked about, $5,495,000. Library trust fund of $25,000, which we talked about during the library presentation. Skipping on down to sanitation, landfill, water, wastewater, reclamation plant, gas and electric, we're at $62,477. This includes the first year of CIP. It's kind of confusing because we talk about the CIP projects, 5 years, 5-year CIP, and we present it like that. When it comes to these state budget forms, you take the first year of that CIP and their operational budget and put them together. So when we're talking about Public Works, we're talking about the park project. When you see $14,935,619, that's the first year, that's the park being built in fiscal year 27 plus their operating budget. So it's a little confusing because we break up how we talk about things and then how it ultimately comes out. Here's our grant funding. We do a great job, like I said, gas and water. Gas is bringing in all of its money to replace its meters for $1,079,000. Water brings in a grant fund to offset that USDA loan. This is for Lebanon for $5.8 million. Airport, again, we put in 10%. The federal government and the state gives us the rest. That's the $5,053,000. So we put in about $500,000 and we end up getting $5 million from the federal government in support for the airport. Library, a lot of what she does, she finds a lot of grants. So whether it be the federal government or the state and or private sector donations, $405,000 she brings in. The police department is currently, like I said, $840,000. This is what they get for their Stone Garden, STEP, and DUI program grants. But then Flock would be adding that. That would make that number $285,000 higher, so closer to $1 million. And then HERF brings in money for its support, $340,000. That was what we just talked about tonight, which was the sidewalk grants through USDA. So CDBG, I'm sorry, throw those federal governments together. Here's one of the important documents you have to see tonight is this is the notice for the final budget. Again, this has to go in the paper for 2 consecutive weeks, and they have to be consecutive. They can't be skipped or it starts all over. That means that the earliest that we can vote on this budget is July 13th at a regularly set meeting. We could call a special meeting, but I don't think there's any need to do that. We could call one on June 29th. What this means for us is setting this for July 13th. That means that the first 13 days of next year, we're not supposed to enter into any contracts. We're not supposed to encumber any funds. So it kind of leaves us in limbo for 13 days, waiting for this approval on July 13th, but it's only the 13th. I think the first paycheck that actually shows July payroll will be the second paycheck in July. So I think this all fits in perfectly. So July 13th at 6 o'clock in this library, where we'll talk the final budget after a public hearing. And that's all. I stand for any questions. Again, And if we could talk a little bit about our expectations for the next few council meetings, do we want to have special meetings to talk about amendments to the budget? Do we want to have amendments to the budget? If there's specific amendments to the budget, can you email me so I can kind of put together a dollar amount and we can talk about them before the meetings? So all this stuff is things that we need to work out before we get to the final, so.
I just want to remind you that I am not in favor with increasing any rates without a 60-day notice to the community. And also, I would like us to wait for that to be November 1st so that we at least have a whole entire year that we've, since the last increase.
So we are bringing back the utility rate increases on June 22nd. That will start that process. Can we do maybe a budget amendment at that same meeting that would talk about how much that would affect us? Because there would be less revenues coming in for 2027. So maybe we, as we do that item to increase or start that rate, we could at the same time clarify that we want to show that as November, July, depending on how you guys vote.
And then also, I want all the rates to go into effect at the same time instead of at different times. I think that's how it was originally in the budget.
So let me bring back an item to show that. So it sounds like we already have an amendment. Again, we'd have to get a second in order for it to go forward, and then you guys would have to vote. So it sounds like do we want to have these every Monday like I think we've wore you out from all these meetings, or do we just stick to the 22nd? You guys email me some kind of general plans of what you want to amend the budget. I can bring all those items. We'll bring them individually, have an individual vote. If they don't get a second, then they die. If they get a second, then we'll take a vote on it, and then we'll go accordingly. I'll show you the dollar effects on that, but we're giving you a balanced budget right now. So if I would suggest if you give me something, like if you want to increase a budget, we got to talk about what we're going to take down or where the money's going to come from, right? So it is balanced right now the way it is. So whatever, if we're talking about an increase, we got to talk about a change somewhere else. But outside of that, the 22nd, there's one idea. Is there any other ideas that people have that would help them get to a yes on the final budget?
And you said the rate was going to stay flat. Are you talking about the tax levy?
That would be the tax levy. It's not the levy. The rate is actually going to go down. We're going to keep the amount we collect flat.
Okay.
Does
so
that
we're
make
gonna keep
sense?
that.
So this will be the first time in 10 years that we've ever done that, but we're going to let the rate slide a little bit. It's very small.
And I don't remember hearing we were going to do that. I just had talked about not raising it, not changing it.
And sorry for the clarification there. I mean, back when we had that meeting, that's the timing. In order to get this out to the county in the proper time, we needed to make that decision back then. So that decision was made to not move forward on a truth in taxation and do that $2,000 increase. So that's made it so that we have less meetings, but also we've missed the timeline by now to set the property tax rate. So something we could consider for 2028's budget, but yes, this will be the first year we're letting it slide.
And you said something about reaching the ceiling. Have we reached our ceiling on how big our budget can be?
No, so that's that $132 million. You guys, when we talked together, I think our budget came to about $109 million. So that extra $18 million is various, like the Internal Service Fund does get its funding from debt, so that's how it's paid for. But outside of that, it's just contingency. But if you have contingency, the ability to take from fund balance will be pretty limited. As you can see, we've drawn down a lot of our fund balance. So if we do have contingency uses in the future, we're going to need to identify the source of funding. And things like grants, like this flock opportunity for police, this is a great example of you need the budget. We need a contingency so we can replace $285,000 and put it into the expenditure budget. But at the same time, we're bringing in a new revenue that we've never had before in the form of a grant. So those offset each other. The net effect is zero. So that's the kind of things that we would have to go forward with if we use contingency in the future. In the past, we just said, oh, we'll use some of our fund balance. I think we're getting a little tight on fund balance now. So we have to actually come up with funding sources if we want to do additional things.
I know we asked, Alma and I brought it up about pushing out the vehicle replacement, but I haven't seen anything come back. It's
So-
like it just,
Do you want an amendment? Is that one of those things that I need to prepare for on the 22nd?
I would like to see something.
So when you say push it back, what does that mean? Because I think I've sent a bunch of emails and it sounds like I've gotten the wrong answer.
You were wanting every 5 years and we were wanting closer to 7 or more. So that way we could,
So we're currently 7 and 15 and sometimes 20. So I proposed the idea of what an additional year in each one of those would look like and how much money it would save. I can show that again as part of the amendment. Or what are we intending to do? Like, what is the whole goal there on vehicle replacement? Is it to make the vehicles last longer?
Not to replace them as often so that we push those expenses out.
So you would like to see what an additional 1 year, again, staff, we gave some recommendations that I wouldn't touch some of the categories, but we can show that same email. I'll bring that back.
I would like a 1 and a 3 year.
So 1 year push and then maybe a 3 year push? Okay.
Yeah, and I also talked about how some of those vehicles that were not, when they were replaced, we didn't auction them and they went to another department. And I don't think the intent was ever that went on automatically onto the vehicle replacement plan,
So-
because that would reduce the expenses if we took all of those
Okay.
off.
So
So-
bring back the whole entire vehicle replacement plan, and then you guys can say which departments, because anyone that had a 0 in the previous year would be that ghost fleet that has appeared this year. So we could bring that back and say, okay, these departments are not getting a vehicle.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, those would need to be taken off of the replacement
Okay,
program.
so
And then
a
at a
little bit
later
different
time,
than
if it
Councilmember Brantner's item,
Yeah,
but, so I
yes.
can bring back both of those on the 22nd.
But I also agree with looking at the number of years on certain vehicles. And
Sounds
then
like you already got a second. Any other suggestions? There was talk, I don't want to blow by it, but there was talk of the holiday gift card or the holiday bonus. Was there some sort of amendment that needed to come back for that?
I'd like that on the list of amendments, and by amendments, you're simply saying the list of things that we'll take action on. We're going to
Yeah.
vote.
So if I brought back the holiday gift card, since I'm balanced right now, I think Councilmember Flores has brought it back the idea of ending the council donation program. Let's offset that for the general fund. Doesn't really take care of the enterprise funds, but we can talk about how much that is, $40,000, I think we'd still have to come up with. So is there any other funding ideas of how I would fund holiday gift cards that I would need to possibly put in that item? I'll give you all the options and show you,
That
but
was
I
going
need some more ideas.
That was going to be my question. Would we need to have the offset that night?
I would hope so we keep a balanced budget. But I mean, if like Councilmember Brantner was able to push back the years of replacement, that money could go towards that.
Exactly.
Okay. So is there any other ideas that I need to explore and give you a dollar amount of how much we think it could save?
Do you still have the donation program on there? Because I would like to see that still go forward. I like helping
Yeah,
the
so
community.
currently in the budget, we have the $105,000, which is $15,000 for each council member. I think we talked about the Safford, what is it? The other program,
Gift from the heart.
no, it's the Gift from the Heart. We did get rid of, and I would apply for the donation program. It's the other 2,000, whatever. So we fixed that. I'll show you the council member budget. We put it back to the way it's
Did you
always
Pride?
been.
Was it the
Pride
Pride?
in Safford, Pride of
Pride of
Safford.
Safford.
So that is not part of the $105,000.
And I was just suggesting that we reduce the amount, not get rid of it. I was saying reduce it down to 70,000, I think is what I said. And then also, I believe that you had mentioned at an earlier meeting that there was some savings from the library that were not originally included with the
We
budget.
did use
And
that to
so-
balance the budget when we found that extra position, so that's
Okay.
in the balance. So any other idea, we don't have to think about it tonight. It's not that, if you get a chance, email me, say, hey, I want this on the 22nd. It doesn't sound like there's a need to have additional meetings outside of the 22nd. I don't need to meet next Monday or the Monday after the 22nd. We can just do the 22nd and hash it out, any amendment to the final budget. Again, we would take the vote on the final budget with those incorporated on the July 13th, but we'll talk about changes to the tentative budget that will get us to the final budget on July 13th. Okay? Any other items? Any other things you think we need to cover?
Would you recap those three? It's the fleet are separate, or two separate.
Yeah.
It's extending the years.
Extending the years, getting rid of the ghost fleet is what you could say there,
And Christmas bonus.
and Christmas bonus. If there's anything else you want to add to that?
Rates. I know that
On utility
affects, so
rates,
I
so I'm
don't know.
pushing that back. That would be a little less revenue brought in,
Yeah.
which would just require us to take more from fund balance. I'll look and see if I can afford that. There was talk about effluent at the golf course. Are we doing anything there? There's a lot of
I
talk.
did want to, before we even start charging them, adopt a rate. So I think we need to say, what is that? Look into what we want that rate to be and adopt that, and then move forward with.
I think the question was last week, though, I don't know if we got back to you, but our utility director did do some research of other effluent systems, and $2.50 seems to be right in the middle of what Most places are on contract because they really can't guarantee the water, just like us. But $2.50 when they do set a rate, it seems about right in the middle. So that was one of the
I
questions.
still want to consider then when we look at that item that we have a reduced rate to
Okay,
ourselves.
so that could be an item that would affect, again, that since that's now in the wastewater fund, that would affect that fund, so I can bring it back as part of the utility. Any other ideas? I know we talked about a lot. Remind me if I've forgotten. But you don't need to do it tonight, just if it comes to you, send me an email. All right?
Mayor, real quick to recap, this is what I have is no rate increase. And if there is one until October, and also to give a 60-day notice.
Am I doing a no rate increase? Because that's a whole different budget.
I was saying,
Just, I think, a push to November.
yeah,
November.
a 60-day notice, so, and then pushing it to November
November.
There's no way.
as an effective date, no.
And then pushing out the vehicle replacement, they would like to see a 1-year push out and a 3-year push out. Adding the holiday bonus back in, reducing the donation program, but not eliminating it. And then reducing the rate for the affluent water for the golf course.
Did you get the ghost vehicles, what he's referring to as ghost vehicles?
Ghost vehicles.
Removing them?
That's a
Ghost
different
vehicles.
item than
Okay.
the 1 to 3. And on the 1 to 3, there were certain staff recommendations. We said, like, don't touch sanitation, don't touch police. Do you want those all considered, or would you take staff recommendations that there's certain vehicles that we just have a hard time with right now? Pushing them would not help. So when I come back, there's categories like of general vehicles that we can talk about, but there's certain ones that we just logically don't want to make that decision. So we would just have more headaches in the fleet department. So, but if you want me to show those too, I can do those too. Some of the biggest accounts we're talking about are sanitation, police, and I don't think we can do anything with fire. I can't push fire any further. After 20 years, they don't make parts technically for a vehicle anymore. So I go 25 years and just guessing how to fix it. So,
Anybody else?
all right, think about it. Send me emails so that we're not like on the 22nd. I want to be able to give you dollar amounts that affect you, like how much this is, and then where would it come from? So I can, as you email me, I can be okay. So where do we think we're going to bring those funds from? Or I can bounce questions off you that I have. So good ideas. All right. Any other items? Sorry, Mayor, I've broke protocol and just go straight to talk.
Then basically, we're not gonna take action.
You got to take action on this tonight to set the tentative budget.
I
Okay.
do have one. So this is just setting the tentative. This is not saying every single thing in the budget, we've approved it.
Correct. The tentative budget is not the final. That's where it's the maximum. So you
I
can't
just
go
wanted
up
that
from here.
clarified.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come back and, well, you voted for a tentative.
But
No.
we can steal from contingency sometimes to fund things. So things could appear in the budget. Again, if you use contingency, how are you funding them with actual cash?
Basically,
So-
we're just saying how much we can spend.
Correct. 132 million is the maximum you can spend. There's a lot of leeway in there, but we can't go higher.
Okay, then. It's an action item.
So
Ma-
you can't go higher. Does that mean we can stop adding to it now?
Yes, but it all depends on what comes back on the 22nd.
We could stop adding, but we can adjust,
You can adjust. I guess that's what you're calling. These are-
increasing
these are
some line
budget
items,
adjustments.
decreasing others.
Yeah, because I'm not crazy about extending the usefulness of the vehicles, charging ourselves a lower rate for the thing, the discussions that I'm gonna send in to him.
And I like the idea of bringing those back as action items so we can vote on them and decide what it should be.
Okay. There was talk about the golf course irrigation system in 2028. That, again, not really part of this year's tentative budget. It's more of a CIP vote. So that vote would happen somewhere around July 13th when we vote on the 5-year CIP. That's more of a theoretical vote. It doesn't really change the budget. It just says this is where we're heading in the future. So if that change needs to be made, that would be on the July 13th if you're not interested in doing an irrigation system in 2028 and funding it through debt. So.
Okay, then, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R26-018 fiscal year 2026, 2027 tentative budget.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve, resolution R 26-018. It's the fiscal year 2026, 2027 tentative budget. All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, this approves resolution number R26-018 with a vote of 6-1 with Councilmember Bratner opposing. Resolution number R26-018, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, setting forth a tentative budget and establishing the maximum budget amount for the City of Safford for fiscal year 2026-27.
Thank you. And we'll move on to resolution R 26-021. It's adopting a pre-approved building plan program.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eric Bejarano on behalf of Jamie Embeck, I'm sorry. This is a request for Mayor and Council to discuss and approve, modify, or deny Resolution 26-021, adopting a pre-approved building plan program in accordance with Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 9-461.20. Background: the state legislature enacted Section 9-461.20 of the Arizona Revised Statutes to require municipalities to establish standard pre-approved housing design plans or a pre-approved housing design plan program. The full statute is attached for your reference and enclosed in your packet. The analysis by city staff: we did review programs from other municipalities, and without an in-house designer, the pre-approved building plan program is the best fit for the city of Safford. All plans that are submitted must meet all code requirements to be published on the website. The city of Safford does not currently charge a plan review fee for single-family residential buildings, so there will not be a fee for the submittals. Staff will begin soliciting submittals after council approval. Recommendation: staff requests that mayor and council approve resolution 26-021, adopting a pre-approved building plan program in accordance with Arizona Revised Statutes 9-461.20. I would say I would stand for any questions, but should you have questions, our Public Works Director, Mr. Lance Henry, will be happy to answer them. Mayor, I defer to you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Henry, is this part of that thing, the legislation that came down where we really didn't have a vote in it? The legislation said you're going to do this, and basically we have to go along with it.
Oh, I think that was a different legislation altogether. This is just something that was passed. And the way I'm going to understand this, it's actually good for us. It would actually speed up processes to where builders, designers, architects could submit their pre-approved building plans, whether it's houses, duplexes, triplexes, get them approved. They would go on our website to where somebody could, say somebody wanted to build a house themselves, they could go on there and select a pre-approved plan. It would send them to that contact or that person for those plans, and they could submit it. Developers could have an approved set of 5 or 6 houses, and then they do a development. They could say, all right, we're going to pull plan A, B, and C for these lots, and the process just sped up because they've already been pre-approved for the house plans. They don't have to be reviewed. It's just a pre-approval process of certain plans. It just speeds up.
Mr. Mayor, this is actually quite good. This is the legislature trying to help you assist your citizens to be able to get housing. It accelerates it. Jamie's done a good job. So it puts plans on the shelf so they can come in and build homes.
Speeds up the whole process.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve resolution R 26-021, adopting a pre-approved building plan program.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve R 26-021, adopting a pre-approved building plan program. All in favor? Opposed?
Mayor, this approves resolution number R26-021 with the unanimous vote. Resolution number R26-021, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, adopting a pre-approved housing design plan program in accordance with Arizona's Revised Statute Section 9-461.20.
Thank you, B. And we'll move on to resolution R 26-024, authorizing the submission of an application for fiscal year 2026 state community development block grant funds. Eric?
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Eric Bejarano on behalf of Jamie Embeck. This is a request for Mayor and Council to discuss and approve, modify, or deny Resolution 26-024, authorizing the submission of an application for fiscal year 2026 State Community Development Block Grant funds, and to include the selected projects from the list discussed in the public hearing. The city receives community development block grant funds every 4 years. Funding amounts vary based on available funding for the award year and may only be spent on qualifying projects in low mod, census tracts prevention, or elimination of slum/blight or urgent need within the city. The second public hearing was held earlier this evening, and the list of CBG grants was considered, and you do have those in your packet, so I won't go over each of those. Recommendation, staff requests that Mayor and Council approve Resolution 26-024, authorizing the submission of an application for fiscal year 2026 State Community Development Block Grant funds, and include the projects chosen from the list discussed in the public hearing. Mayor, I defer the time to you.
Any comments on this item? Or any suggestions on the project?
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R 26-024, authorizing the submission of an application for fiscal year 2026 State Community Development Block Grant Funds.
I do have a question. Is the motion going with what staff is suggesting for the use of these funds?
Yes, I believe, Mayor and Council, I believe you have to select a project and so we can put that in the resolution.
That's correct.
Gordon,
So
discuss
out
the
of the
project.
13 projects, Mayor, the motion would have to include what project or projects they would want.
Should I redo the motion for staff's recommendation?
Yeah. If you would.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R 26-024, authorizing the submission of an application for FY 2026 State Community Development Block Grant funds for the projects or project presented by staff, which I believe was the sidewalk ADA improvements on Third Avenue.
There was actually 2 areas of sidewalk, so it was the sidewalk ADA improvements on Third Avenue and the last one, complete ADA sidewalk improvements in the low mod area. So basically anywhere in that low mod area.
The sidewalk.
We've got areas of sidewalk.
Right.
I think Councilman Brantner mentioned an ADA ramp at 12th Street and 4th Avenue or 5th Avenue that could be done. So anywhere in that low mod area, sidewalks and ADA ramps is kind of what the recommendation is.
Does that motion cover it?
So moved.
And I would second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R 26-024, authorizing the submission of an application for fiscal year 2026 State Community Development Block Grant funds. And the project would be what staff has recommended. All in favor? Opposed? It carries.
Mayor, this approves resolution number R 26-024 with a unanimous vote. Resolution number R 26-024, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, authorizing the submission of an application for the fiscal year 2026 State Community Development Block Grant Funds, certifying that said application meet the community's previously identified housing and community development needs and the requirements of the state CDBG program, and authorizing all actions necessary to implement and complete the activities outlined in the said application.
Thank you, B. Okay, we'll move on to item 14. We're going to close our regular meeting and convene into an executive session. This is an action item.
Do we need a break, Mayor?
Yeah, we have to vote on it.
Do we need a break, though, or no?
Do we need a break?
A break?
Yeah, it's up to you guys. I don't need
Hey, Mayor, I move that we convene into executive session.
Second.
one. Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Okay, we're going to close the executive session and reconvene back into our regular meeting. We'll move on to item number 17, contracts, agreements, and bids. Item number 1, approval of the city manager's contract and address the city manager residency requirements.
Mayor, Bill Sims, are you on the line, Bill? Are you muted, Bill?
Hello, Bill.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we're ready for you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and council. You have directed me to negotiate with the interim manager, his position as formal manager. We'll make these changes to the prior agreement. The agreement will be effective May 11th. That was the date that you announced your selection of the interim manager as the manager. The salary will be at $180,000. There will be a $20,000 incentive to have a home within the city. Again, these are changes to the prior. There won't be a $500 a month deferred comp payment. He will have the right to 80 hours of vacation time credited when he signs the agreement. He will have a city car. There won't be a $500 a month allowance. All the rest are consistent with the prior agreement. He will be able to exercise the right for additional teaching, training, speaking, and consulting, as long as it doesn't adversely impact his duties to you as a mayor, not mayor, manager, and subject with your approval. And by signing this, you'd be approving it. He will get 6 months of severance, and with that, 6 months of continued health care. And then, so the action tonight would be for you to direct me to use the prior agreement as a template and to come back with an agreement that memorializes those terms and authorizes the mayor to sign. And in addition, you would be, by signing that agreement, by authorizing the mayor to sign the agreement, you would be waiving the requirement for residency. So the action would be to authorize the city attorney to draft a final draft of the employment agreement reflecting the terms I just discussed, and you waiving the requirement for residency. And you authorize the mayor to sign that document.
Okay, it's an action item.
Mayor,
Any
I
comments?
move that we direct the city attorney to finalize the contract as presented and submit to you, the mayor, to execute and waive the residency requirement.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the contract for the city manager. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
No. I was with it. Sorry. I'm just slow getting my hand down tonight. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Now
Yes,
we'll
sir.
move on to item number 18, announcement of current events.
You gonna try to get your volunteers, Alma, for the parade?
Yeah, so I'm on the 4th of July 250th celebration, and so I just want to remind everybody, I've spoke to most of you about it, but the parade, and we can all be at the parade. We were asked to be marshals alongside with Town of Pima Council and Town of Thatcher Council and the Board of Supervisors. So if we can all make an effort to be there behind the courthouse at 9:30. And then also, Vance did mention as part of that, the events, the council members are invited to the 5:30 a.m. serve pancakes in Pima. And so I know that I've got commitment already from Vice Mayor and from Councilman Brad. And so if any other council members would like to join us for pancake breakfast at 5:30, and then they'll release us in time to come back to the parade. So.
Anybody else?
Mayor, just real quick, for the 4th of July, we did order polos for everybody, so we all have matching, I guess I'll call it Safford blue. And then also have red, white, and blue City of Safford ball caps for everyone if you'd like to wear one. So we'll have that as well. Thank you.
And we'll go ahead and move on to item 19, request for future agenda items. Go ahead.
I'd like to get it put on there for city manager to speak with Thatcher regarding the golf course. And then I'd like it to be on there to authorize him, something on there to tighten the golf course language in the contract up. So that we can discuss that.
Anybody else? And we'll move on to item number 20.
Okay, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? I think it carries.
Bill?